Exciting news out of Sony. The A6300 has been announced. I've been waiting for this for quite a while. I've been very on the edge of buying an A6000, which is a very popular, very small, compact Sony interchangeable lens crop sensor camera. And I've been really hoping that they would do a nice beefy upgrade with the A6300. And everything to me is looking pretty darn good with a few exceptions. So let me read off the list I got here. It's got a lot of goodies. 24 megapixels, like the A6000, Bird approves. It is not BSI, we'll get into that. It does not have IBIS, we'll get into that. It does have a much improved AF system. Calm down, Bird, we'll get to that. Super slow motion up to 120 frames per second in 1080. It's got a weather sealed body, magnesium, very lightweight. It's got a new improved EVF. It's got the same tilting LCD. It's got a mic input, no headphone input, get into that. Still has a 30-minute recording limit, and then we'll get into the lenses. So let's back all the way up to the sensor. So, no BSI. You don't know what BSI is? Backside illuminated sensor. That's kind of a new lingo that Sony is using, others, I should say all sensor manufacturers are using to describe a type of sensor where they've moved all the wiring to the back of the sensor so it does not get in the way of the photosite to absorb the light coming into it. Increases the light sensitivity and lowering the noise. This does not have it. Calm down, Bird. This does not have it. But in the literature, they do note they're using copper wiring, which does two things. First, it gives you a faster sensor readout, gives you that super slow motion ability, which it also should help with reducing rolling shutter. And the samples look to be very good in that regard as well. But it also allowed them to shrink the amount of wiring in the actual sensor itself. And by the diagrams, it describes it allowing the photosites to capture more light. So looks like that might be somewhere in the middle between normal and backside illuminated in terms of increased photosite sensitivity, or rather photo light capturing area. So looks like we're going to have, no matter what, a definite improvement in low light noise ability over the A6000, which was already quite good. So looking good there. Now, IBIS. What is IBIS? It's sensor-based stabilization. So any lens you put on there, manual, old, new, whatever, it'll give you stabilization. Doesn't have it. Yes, Bird is very unhappy about that. So unfortunately, you can't really do anything about that, but it's not a deal breaker to me. Most of my lenses have image stabilization, which, let's get into the lenses. I have mostly Canon glass. I haven't invested much in anything else. So what's nice about Sony is that they currently play about as nice as you can get with electronic adapters to give you full autofocus, electronic and image stabilization control. It's of course not always perfect, but it's pretty darn good and it's good enough for me. So for those of you who really need a lightning fast autofocus and whatnot, we'll have to wait and see just how well it plays. It should play pretty well though, so let's keep an eye on that. Next up, let's go into the 4K mode. This is a big thing because I'm a videographer and I like to capture pretty things. The thing that really sets the A6300 apart from a lot of competitors like the GH4 that this is being captured on is that there's no crop when using 4K. A lot of these cameras had the issue, they would take a center crop of the sensor, fairly big crop in some cases, so you have a really tough time getting a wide angle shot. But the A6300, full pixel readout, takes the full width of the sensor, so that is fantastic. Now, there was some rumor online about it not having that, about having a crop when doing 30p in 4K. I don't know, it's because differing information, so we'll have to wait and see, but it could be that 30p might be too much for the processing and they had to do a crop. So I don't really use 30p that much, but if it has that, then you'll have to keep an eye on that if 30p is a big deal for you. What's next on the list? Let's actually talk about the AF. 425 AF points. Is that enough for you, Bird? It's enough for me. So if you're looking to track really fast motion and keeping up with things moving around, should be pretty fantastic. Some people have noted though that there is no touchscreen, so selecting those points might be a bit of a hassle. I'm not too much of a touchscreen myself, but I do end up using it quite a bit when selecting focus on the GH4, so I haven't gotten pretty used to that. So another little bit of a downturn. But also they've improved the EVF. The EVF is now something like 2.4 million pixels or whatnot. Very nice and high resolution. A lot of people have differing opinions about center-mounted EVFs versus the A6300's side-mounted EVF. I like side-mounted because I got a pretty big nose, so it's nicer to be able to put my nose next to the camera versus smudge it under the camera, so I like the side-mounted. It also claims to be able to do 8 frames per second with a constant readout, so you can shoot up to 8 frames a second, basically unobstructed. You can see what's going on and keep up with the action. But if you don't need quite that, You can also shoot apparently up to 11 frames per second, which is cool for all you fast sport wildlife shooters out there. Should also note weather sealing, which is nice. You don't have to worry too much about taking it out into the elements. Let's also talk about the mic input. This is huge for someone like me. I'm recording into a GH4 right now off of this little mic, which plugs into a mic port. Couldn't do that with the A6000. It didn't have a mic port, so it's great that it has a mic port. What it doesn't have though, headphone port to actually monitor that audio. I get away with not monitoring audio. I'm just plugging right in now. I don't do a mic check on this. I just, I know the equipment's already set up how I want it to, and I know what I'm getting, and then I double check it after, and I have obviously the ability just to record this again. But if you're doing something where audio is kind of critical, like let's say a wedding, you kind of need to know what you're hearing. So there are some tricks out there with certain cameras to be able to get audio feeds sometimes out of the HDMI port. What Sony really should do is give us some sort of option, if possible, to get a mic output via the hot shoe, which does have an XLR adapter. The XLR adapters don't have a headphone out for monitoring. Sony should really see if they can give that to us, because that could be pretty key, and that might be a deal breaker for a lot of folks. Excuse me. So the other issue with the video is the 30-minute time limit. It's still there because of EU tax restrictions or regulations or whatnot, so if you need to do long recordings, unfortunately it is what it is. I don't typically, so it doesn't affect me too much. But what I'm really looking forward to is having this as a go everywhere camera. If you don't have a camera with you, you're not gonna get the shot. So it's really whatever you've got with you. I just had the opportunity to get a shot, and all I had was my darn cell phone. I tried to do a time lapse and it failed, and it was very disappointing. So I really wish I had a proper camera with me. So to be able to have such a small camera that's still capable really could be huge, and I'm looking very forward to the price point, $1,000. Some people are saying that that's a lot, but only because they're comparing it to the A6000, which is dirt cheap. It's like 400 bucks or something for the A6000 body. But you gotta look at the competition. I think the closest camera you can compare it to is the Samsung NX500, a very capable camera. And that does give you 4K and a lot of similar things, but has its own strengths and weaknesses, and comes in at 800 bucks. I don't know. It's gonna be a hard comparison, but it looks like the Sony overall, I think, will edge it out in terms of usability and features, at least for me. Look at that pretty wing right there. Good job, bird. Yeah, show off that pretty wing. I forgot about the S-Log and S-Gamut. For us video shooters, to get a flat image for grading later on in post, you can get a nice flat image with the S-Log and S-Gamut modes of the picture profiles. I don't know what the bird's going crazy with here, but so it's nice that they included that, which is a feature that's typically reserved for their higher-end pro video cameras and higher-end photo cameras like the A7R II and the A7S II. But obviously this camera is at a price point which is a lot more affordable and might give you much of the image quality of those higher-end Sony cameras for a much lower price. So that's all we can say for now. Let's wait and see the actual performance, but if the previous generation A6000 is any indicator, then we should be looking at some really interesting camera stuff going on. So let's wait and see. And I'm Darren, this is a bird, and we'll talk to you next time.